taxpayers in solving problems. Mr. Naille can be heard on Wednesday mornings on Girard at Large. It's 6 a.m., is it?
6:40 to 7, I think I'm on.
Okay. That's FM 90.7, so you can hear him on Wednesdays. Mr. Naille, come.
All right. You guys are in for it. I've been doing these workshops all over the state of New Hampshire for years with a certain amount of material. Like people would say, oh, there's no such thing as buses with people from out of state coming in. Well, we know there are buses. We caught them with out-of-state people in Deerfield at Bear Brook Park. A busload of out-of-staters voted in 1996. We didn't catch them until 2000 at a non-existent road. So obviously it was a non-existent address. So we have the names of those people, and we've been giving out this evidence and working on collecting voter fraud information, proof, and documentation since 2000. Gary is aware of that. He was around back then. So I'm done with that part of it. You know, proving that there's election law violations and what they look like and how to spot them and all that. Now we're on to the process of catching people involved in double voting, voting from out of state. Hit the mother load in 2012. When the Obama, 2008 they were here, but 2012, pretty much they pulled out all the stops. The Organizing for America is the crowd we've been looking at. And I think we have some nice examples to show you guys. Since everybody came tonight, you're going to get some handouts. And I'm going to show you what voter fraud looks like. I have an assistant here to hand stuff out. And let me keep one of these. One is in color, so I'll have to describe it to you. All right. First thing we have to go over is, ain't no such thing as a loophole that lets people from other states vote in New Hampshire. If anyone tells you there's a loophole in any law, or any court case, or any statute, administrative rule, or line drawn in the sand at the beach, please let me know, because I have never seen it. If our state constitution says you have to be domiciled in the town or ward in which you vote. Here's the problem with a non-resident voter. If you're from New Jersey, let's pick the one I'm going to show you tonight. If you're from South Carolina and you come to New Hampshire to work on Obama's campaign and you vote here, the New Hampshire Attorney General's office will let you. They could care less. But you violated your own state's law. Right? I got you in your home state. So I don't care what the Attorney General's office does in the state of New Hampshire anymore. They're not going to prosecute. One or two, they pick some here. Sometimes we catch them before they do. So, this right here is how you find stuff like that. Everybody check out your little list. I call this the great catch of Obama low-life vote thieves who are high-level political operatives nationwide. Let's start right here. The little box you're looking at, that little box is a voter database of history of voters in New Hampshire. It goes back to, I don't have the numbers up top because I printed this out in a hurry, but this goes back to like 2004. So the check you see in front of Nicole Marie Thurber on the bottom of the list, that's 2004. So it's 2004, 8, 10, 12. Here it goes. Let's start with up top, Bedingfield. Yeah, Bedingfield. Catherine Joan Bedingfield has a check above her, next to her name. That is 2012, I think it is. 2008, I'm sorry. 2008. Down below her is David Kelly Keeve. He voted in the primary, that's a little X there, and the one next to it is the general election. So David Kelly Keeve voted in 2008 from, and notice all these people are from 1200 Elm Street, Unit 402. Okay? Kate and David are married. They work and live in Washington, D.C. They own a $1.4 million condo in Washington, D.C. So it's very odd that they would be voting here in New Hampshire in 2008. They are Washington, D.C. political consultants for Hilltop Public Solutions. Look it up on the internet. It's a very high-powered communication firm out of D.C. They operate mostly in the Midwest. Colorado, they're trying to change the Midwest blue like they've changed other states. That's their sole purpose. But some of them came here to work for Obama in 2008. They voted. The next one down is Caitlin Ann Legocki. She voted here. This check you see behind her name is November 6th, 2012. So she voted from 1200 Elm, Unit 402. On that same night, November 6, 2012, she was the lead communications person for Democrat U.S. Senator Claire McCaskill out of Missouri. If you look on a YouTube video, Caitlin Ann Legocki was in Missouri on November 6, 2012, on YouTube answering questions and doing her communication job with local TV. So I can show Caitlin Ann Legocki in Missouri on the same night she voted here. She claims it's an accident. Okay. I write for CNHT.org. I write for NH Insider. I'm on Rich Gerard's show. I go on WGIR. I go all over the place talking about this stuff and challenging the AG to do something about this. But Caitlin Ann Legocki works for, right now, I believe she's with Precision Strategies out of DC, big-time communications firm owned by Stephanie Cutter. Anybody ever hear of Stephanie Cutter? Like the pathological liar that works for the communication firm that helps Obama. You'll see her on news shows. She will say anything. She's been with the Democrat Party and involved in campaigns for a long time. Look her up, Stephanie Cutter. Caitlin Ann Legocki now works for her. I have Caitlin Ann Legocki's information sheet here. I'll dig it up real quick. Oh, I'd like to pass this out. I gotta have this back. This little piece of history for CNHT. This is my original sheet of Obama workers, and this is how many of them we started out catching as voting here in New Hampshire. All these people were sent to New Hampshire. They don't live in New Hampshire. They never lived in New Hampshire to work here for Obama. We started checking names and looking on the statewide database and found a few names, and I think I have about 30 names. So I'm not really concerned about any other voter fraud any longer because I've tagged some of the key people in the Democrat Party who run campaigns. So when you see those slippery things come out of your mailbox, the shiny ads, when you see television ads, these are the people that draft them. Hilltop Public Solutions, David Keeve, Peter Kavanaugh, and Greg Wasserstrom. Right? And this is the little army that followed him. I think the top guy is Peter Kavanaugh in New Hampshire. This is a little army of consultants and media people that worked for Obama in 2008, 2012, and luckily for us, they're so stinking arrogant they voted here, and now I kind of own them. If anyone, I wish somebody would have brought a laptop, but if you go on your computer and you look up Caitlin Ann Legocki, the first 10 or 12 articles you see is what a low-life ballot box stuffer she is when she came to New Hampshire. Now, Caitlin Ann Legocki, right here, third one down, is registered to vote, as far as I can tell from today, in DC, North Carolina, because we have friends there who sent me her voting history, Missouri, where she worked for Claire McCaskill, and she's still on the checklist in Manchester because she voted here in 2012. Or her name was checked off by someone. Huh? How can you be on television all sweaty from working all day on Claire McCaskill's campaign? You have Democrat Senator Claire McCaskill in Missouri. How can you be in Missouri and vote here? Right? That is their problem. When you come to New Hampshire and you steal our vote, you stay on our voter checklist, or we purge our list every 10 years. So when thousands of college students and campaign workers come to New Hampshire and steal a vote here, they remain on our checklist for me to find. If I find college students, hey, we'll punish them a little bit. If I find professional campaign workers, when they go to work for the next campaign, Caitlin Ann Legocki left Missouri and went to DC to work for Stephanie Cutter for Precision Strategies. As soon as she opens her mouth on the internet or on television, I will send what I have on her to the opposing party in her next campaign. So if the Attorney General of the state of New Hampshire will not prosecute, I will persecute. And as you can see right here, this is called street justice for people who steal my vote. If you look here, you will see Kate Bedingfield, Mrs. Kelly Keeve, and you'll see their phone numbers, 202-506-377. The next number down is 907-248-4041. Right? It's illegal for me to give the phone numbers of a New Hampshire voter, but I got it off the list. Here's their numbers. I want the camera to capture this now. I crossed out Nicole Marie Thurber's phone number. It's 603. Right? I don't want to give out a legitimate New Hampshire's resident's phone number. That would be illegal. But here's the phone numbers for these so-called voters in the state of New Hampshire. So if the Attorney General's office doesn't like that, come see me. And have the people from out of state hire an attorney to defend them here in New Hampshire. Or sue me. I'm easy to find. If I've called you a lowlife, vote-stealing ballot box stuffer, and that hurts you in your next campaign, you've been hired $50,000, $60,000 a year. The Keeves managed to buy a $1.4 million home in D.C. from running campaigns. Okay? When you go to the next campaign in Missouri or Oklahoma or New Jersey, some people get hired overseas. When you go to the next campaign, you find that you're applying for the job, someone else gets it because Ed Naille wrote something nasty like the truth about you here in New Hampshire, come see me, sue me. Because I'll get a motion for discovery and we'll get your real address. We'll get your real driver's license. We'll find out who you really are. Right? And welcome to New Hampshire. Come steal my vote again, see what happens to you. All right, here's another one. I'm going to be blunt. Has anyone picked that up yet? Another little handout.
Coincidence how they're all born on January 1st, too.
That's part of the database.
Oh, okay.
Rich Jordan, I almost turned inside out over that. If you'd hand that out for me. The next thing you have is, I caught a young lady last week. Her name is Alexandra Isabel Perez Caballero. And she voted from she voted from the Kalik family, K-A-L-I-K, in Manchester at 145 Steinman Street. She voted there. I looked up her name, looked up where she was, did a little background search. Alexandra Perez Caballero works for a police department in South Carolina. Right? But she voted here from Steinman Street at a private home in 2012 by absentee ballot. When you go on LinkedIn, you can see that Alexandra Perez Caballero worked for Payless Shoes in data collection. She worked for the Obama campaign here in New Hampshire for data collection. And now she's working for a police department in Columbia, South Carolina as a data manager, data collector, data person. Okay? So I find out that her mother bought the house that she's been voting from since she was old enough to vote in South Carolina. Her mother, last name Caballero, bought the house in 2001. It is 3 Pinecroft Road in Columbia, South Carolina. So when she went to college in 2008, 2009, she voted absentee in South Carolina from college. So we know she knows how to vote absentee, don't we? She came here for 30, 40 days to work on the Obama campaign, and she voted in New Hampshire. And then re-registered back in South Carolina, where she lives, and she's registered to vote right now. So she is currently registered to vote at Steinman's Road, 145 Steinman's Road, Manchester, and she's currently registered to vote in South Carolina, because I talked to the sweet old lady from South Carolina, from Richmond County, where Columbia is. That's odd. Why would she be voting there? Well, she can explain that later on. We'll turn her into the state for voting outside the state of South Carolina. Now, state of New Hampshire, they say, oh, if you come to New Hampshire for 10 seconds and register to vote and then change your mind and you don't live here anymore, well, then you were a resident. Too bad, Alexandra, because I gave everybody the statutes, which were amended in 2011. If you live in the south of South Carolina, there is a list of things that make you a domiciled resident, a legal resident of that state. Your driver's license, your home, any clubs you belong to, where you are employed, police department, right? Where your relatives live. You live at your mom's house. Your vehicle. Right? Everybody says, oh, driver's license has nothing to do with your registration to vote. It does in South Carolina, where this low-life, out-of-state vote thief came from and is today. Right? Here's the other problem she has. The domicile laws in South Carolina are same as the income tax laws. So if you're a registered voter in South Carolina, the laws making you a registered voter, a resident, a domicile resident, are the same as they are for paying your income taxes. Do you think that Alexandra Perez Caballero paid income taxes if she works for a police department in South Carolina? Bet she did. I'll bet she filed 2012 without taking out 30 days she was a resident of New Hampshire. So what I'm saying is, this lady, this young lady working for Obama and Organizing for America, which is now Organizing for Action, or ACORN, or the Democrat Mafia, whatever you want to call them, she's a low-life vote thief, and I'm turning her, well, already turn her into her own state, and she doesn't like it, and she doesn't like what she sees about herself on the internet. What are her alternatives? Prove you're a resident of the state of New Hampshire, and I'll come back with your own statutes, and I'll get a motion for discovery from you. So you're kind of stuck. Once again, and the other part of this is, how in the world can the Secretary of State of the state of New Hampshire and the Attorney General's office say, if you come to New Hampshire and you're here on election day and you say in your mind you're a resident and you vote here, how can the state of New Hampshire say you're a resident here when the law in the state you live in says you're a resident and domiciled there and you pay your income taxes, all your other taxes, or your cars are registered, your driver's license are there? How can you do that? Because we've been listening to the Attorney General's office say you can't prosecute voter fraud because in their mind they're residents for a day or an hour, however long it takes them to steal your vote. So, I am here for a very simple reason. I need you people to look for these people. I'm looking for out-of-state voters. I'm looking for the house you see with 3,000 liberal signs on election day, a lot of activity. I'll bet you there are a lot of cars flying in and out of Steinman's 145 Steinman's Road in Manchester, weren't there? Here's the kicker. Guess who else voted from that same house? Elena Biden, Vice President Biden's niece. Now that I have Alexandra, I have Elena Jacquet Biden. They both stayed with the Kalick family. And what kind of people are the Kalicks to let Obama's people stay at their house and steal your vote? I'm going to ask that of them. And the people in Meredith that let people stay there, and the people in Hanover and Lebanon and Berlin and Milford that we caught voting in other states, we caught 2 people voting from the homes of people who work for the Attorney General's office. Huh? One of them works for a U.S. Senator in Hawaii, Melissa Sohet, S-H-O-E-H-T. Melissa Sohet voted from the home of an employee, Assistant Attorney General Mike Brown, in Salem, New Hampshire. You see the connection here? 24-year-old gets out of college, comes to New Hampshire to work on a campaign, stays with activist Democrats. How many of you people let people from Romney campaign stay at your house and make an unregistered donation? We got another guy, well, let me finish up with this one. So we have the people who are supposed to enforce the law, twist the law to give their party and their friends a benefit in the elections. It's gone on for way too long. They got so arrogant they pulled this off in 2012. All this is still relevant because we don't purge our voter rolls. So in 2014, I'm going to be stalking these people when they come here. There's nothing the Attorney General, I've been doing this for how many years now? I've been asking the Attorney General's office, please, I am intimidating these voters. Several of these voters, I'm going to intimidate them. I'm going to try and disenfranchise them. I'm going to try and have them never vote in my state again because they're from another state. So that's illegal to intimidate a voter. It's illegal to give away their phone numbers. Come do something about it. This is basically, we've drawn a line in the sand. Here's the numbers. 718,000 people voted November 12th. In November 6, 2012. Of the 718,000, 99,000 people registered same day. Of those, 14,000 didn't have ID on them when they registered to vote. Who registers to vote and doesn't have ID on them? And the Secretary of State's office is still trying to find them. They mailed off, I don't know how many of them they've said they find. try this little experiment. Go on the Secretary of State's website and look up previous investigations. They have them on their website, right-hand side. Investigations of alleged voter fraud, 2008, 2010, 2012, right? See if you ever find anything I've found on their investigation of voter fraud. Their investigation of voter fraud is, oh, there's a mix-up in the addresses. We'll go to the house. Here's what it says. Agent went to house. Person answered door, said yes, they live there. Case closed. You know, it doesn't say person answered door, showed driver's license from Arkansas. Right? Was asked, why do you have a driver's license from Arkansas 2 years after you voted? Stuff like that, like I do. We peruse the arrest logs in college towns. That's always very exciting. Or when they have a big arrest, like 2005, there was 135 people arrested in Durham for a hockey riot. We found it's consistent. A consistent 10% of arrestees in a college town are from out of state. They say, here's where I live. Right now I live in New Jersey. Here's my driver's license. I'm registering to vote here today. And they register to vote. 2 years later, they get arrested. Same driver's license. They show it to the police. So when you get pulled over, police say, who are you? Give me your driver's license. What if you gave a driver's license and said, oh, that's my driver's license from New Jersey, but I really don't live there? What would happen to you? Snap. You know, so people keep telling me, oh, driver's license has nothing to do with it. Driver's license is part of defining who you are, proving who you are, whether or not you're domiciled in the state of New Hampshire or some other state. So I've given you enough stuff to kind of, has this clicked yet with everybody? Because I have a guy who works on campaigns, and I've been telling him this for a long time, and he said, you know, the AG's not going to arrest them, there's nothing you can do. So I'm going to their home state. Some states, like North Carolina, if you vote in another state, you lose your residency. So that's the people I want to talk to. And he said, that's brilliant. Well, yeah, we've been doing it for a couple years. You know, how many times have I told you this? So I'm trying to find a nice, easy way. I'll ask you this question. How many people here think that Elena Biden is a resident of the state of New Hampshire? How many people think that Elena Biden and, Alexandra Perez Caballero actually live with, had a job with, were residing at for any other purpose than working on a campaign with the Calic family on Steinman's Avenue in Manchester? Well, they're the questions I would ask. If I was going to prosecute, let's say I was Attorney General for a day, I would visit some of these people and say, hey, why is your name on a checklist? Or why did you let these people vote for your home? And see if they say, oh, I'm sorry, I'll pay the fine. They say, oh, you can't prosecute because all I have to do is in their head say they were planning. Well, show some evidence of it. Show an application for a job. Show you did anything. You transferred your driver's license. I could care less. When I worked as a poll watcher in Ward 3 in Manchester, I could care less who came in from the Pine Street Inn. I think they have a home for people. I could care less about them. I caught 3 campaign workers because somebody who ran for a selectman position in Manchester gave me the returned envelopes. So I know who didn't live where they just got mail. I caught 3 in Ward 3. That's not even a hot ward for voter fraud. This ward is. We're 1200 Elm Street. We caught a slew of people in there. Going back to 2008, when I get the names of two men who have out-of-state prefixes on their phone numbers, I look them up. They're both attorneys. One's from California, one's from Wisconsin. They were here for a couple of days. If I had access, if someone wants to arrest me or sue me, I'm going to get access to your, did you pay rent for this? Or did Obama pay for this room? Elena Biden. Do you think Elena Biden came here and rented an apartment at 1200 Elm or anywhere else? The guy that stayed with Kathy Sullivan. Anybody know who Kathy Sullivan is? Mm-hmm. Former Democrat Party chair? All right, she had a guy, Jeff Witrowski, in 2005, out stealing campaign signs from the Republicans. He got caught. He's from South Dakota. Jeff Witrowski was here to work for Mayor for Life Bob Baines. Right? John Kerry paid for him to come here. So he's one of the professional workers. He used to organize rallies against, who's the soldier that had Fawn Hall for Oliver North. That's the kind of stuff he used to do. And they bring him here to run Bob Baines' campaign. So somebody's paying him. He's staying at Kathy Sullivan's house. He's out stealing Frank Gintis signs and Republican Party signs. He gets caught. They follow him to Kathy Sullivan's house. Open the door, lights turn on, trunk opens up, there's the signs. Oh, please don't arrest me. I'm going back to South Dakota. Oh, don't ruin my life with an arrest. Guess what? He voted in Manchester while I was here. Stole somebody's vote. Here's the kicker. He came back in 2008 and voted from 1200 Elm Street. We got him in 2008 coming back. He's registered right now. I have a copy of it. He's registered right now to vote in D.C. So here's these people that say, oh, in my mind, I was voting in New Hampshire because in my mind I live there. And your Attorney General, whoever it is now, says that's perfectly fine. The Secretary of State apparently has no beef with it. Well, wait a minute. I got you registered, some of these people, 3, 4 states. How are you currently registered as an active voter in 3 states? You shouldn't be registered as an active voter in more than 1 state. This state should clean their voter list. Here's what we do. Here's the scam that is. Our Constitution says we clean our voter checklist every 10 years, the years that end in 0, right? We skip back 4 years and then purge the rolls. Well, the current 4 years are the ones where in New Hampshire and Durham in 2012, 3,000 people registered same day. They're still on your rolls, even though some of them haven't probably graduated. In UNH, 50% of the students pay out-of-state tuition. If you pay out-of-state tuition and you have a driver's license from another state, where the hell are you from? It ain't here. If you lived in New Hampshire, you're a resident of New Hampshire, why are you paying out-of-state tuition? Why was that arranged? Why are you carrying around a driver's license from another state? Why are you probably registered in that state? Because most other states have motor voter. So as soon as you get your driver's license, you're registered to vote. You get to turn 18, anything you do at the town hall, you're instantly registered to vote. They want to make sure everybody's registered. So in the old days, you'd find kids that never registered. Most of them are in other states. So we've been tracking this and tracking this and tracking this, and 2012 was the payoff. Like I said, I need you guys to look around your town and to volunteer to be poll watchers in 2014, because these same people are going to want to come back. You know what they have? Databases with everything. When they were here, I went all over the state. On November 6, 2012, I was in Hanover. I was watching Willie Black, the moderator up there. The moderators have to wear fluorescent orange vests. They're bringing so many people in, it's like a traffic jam. I was in Durham watching that. People lined up 500, 600 feet. I posted a video of it not long ago on the internet. Some moron, retired professor, took a video of himself showing off, and I used it against him. He actually emailed me, that nitwit. Professor Smith sent me an email. You know, I think he was delete. You know, I've gotten hate mail from Harvard, EDU, that's how it's set up, from what I did up in Hanover. Friends of mine and I challenged 440 voters up in Hanover, almost shut down their election in 2002. They actually tried to change the law and not let me up there ever again. So we've been at this for a long time. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask for some questions, and I may, as the questions get good or not, hand you out some other stuff. Here's a little something I just got yesterday in the mail. The Supreme Court wants me to come down and argue some case. Is this the one? Anyway, this is what it looks like. There's a case right now. If non-residents are allowed to vote in New Hampshire, then why in the world did Hannah Rivers and 3 other college students from out of state sue the state of New Hampshire for the right to vote in New Hampshire and keep their driver's license in their home state? That's called Hannah Rivers versus State of New Hampshire. It's currently in the Supreme Court. I have until March 20th to file something with them. I don't want to go to the Supreme Court over this. I'm not going to argue with these people. This is the only effective way to stop them. I don't trust the New Hampshire Attorney General's office, the Secretary of State, the Superior Court. The judge that did this actually retired. Columbia University, John Lewis, Judge John Lewis. He's retired. They're going to replace him with somebody else. That was a judge shopping deal by the ACLU and the League of Women Voters. Never donate to those people. Never trust those people. And Hannah Rivers, Petreco, I think there was 4 girls that sued the state for the right to vote here, and I believe 2 of them didn't vote. So why is this even a case? If you sue the state of New Hampshire for the right to vote here and then don't vote here, how the hell is this still in the court? So anyway, I heard about this on television. I filed a motion to intervene. I went down to Stratford County, and if you're suing the state of New Hampshire, why are you in Stratford County? You should be in the capital. It's versus the state of New Hampshire. Is the state of New Hampshire located in Stratford County? No, it's in Merrimack County in Concord, right? Where the Secretary of State is, the Attorney General. So I went down, I filed a motion to intervene. The judge threw out the first guy, Andy Martin. I had to follow Andy Martin, that's like following a comedian. I was up next. Judge Lewis said, Mr. Naille, why do I need you in my courtroom? But I found your evidence, your exhibits compelling. I found them interesting, and I'll use them in my decision. I said, well, maybe that's why you should let me in this case, Judge Lewis, because I got all those documents from the Attorney General's office, and they're not using them. He goes, well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do, Mr. Naille. I'm going to let you in as with amicus briefs. I can file anything I want like this. And he would look at it. And I said, fine. And I turned around and walked away. So he called my name as I just walked out. I mean, I was so sick of him because I knew that they were judge shopping. I'll bet he never even read the case. I'll bet he signed off because it was the ACLU. So I'm headed out the doors. He called for me a couple times. I turned around and said, yes. He goes, you can stay. And I said, no, I got what I came for. And I left. And guess what he did? After I left, he called for me several times to ask a question, but I wasn't there. So he put me back in the case, and the Supreme Court thinks I'm still there. So they copy me to everything else. I wouldn't go back before those people for nothing. I don't trust them. Anyway, anybody have any questions? Because if you ask me questions, I can hand you documents and stuff, and I can figure out what I'm doing wrong if I haven't gotten through this through to you. That's my main goal is, I want you guys to think like voter fraud predators. Okay? When something happens, gather information. Call me. Write it down. Take your cell phone, license number, boom. Take a picture of this, that. I follow the Democrats around on election day. In Keene, I followed them around until they got out and like tried to surround my car. So I have pictures of them surrounding my car. And I'm waving to them, and like, okay, fine. You know, they're going to, and they have checklists and laptops because their database has every stinking potential voter they need. That's why when you go out to these towns, and people, I walk up to Paul Mirsky, State Representative Paul Mirsky, at his election on November 6th, he goes, I've never seen these people before, because they are targeting them with, oh, he's got 2 kids in college, send him that. Oh, this one's on Social Security, send him that. Oh, this one's got 3 young daughters, send him that. This one has guns, so don't send him anything. So they have a database they have built for a long time. The Republican Party doesn't have it. Oh, one other thing I should let you know, I am a registered Democrat. Right? I'm called, I guess you would call it a tactical Democrat. So if anybody wants to sue a Democrat for exposing voter fraud, go ahead and do it. All right, questions? Anybody have a question?
Poll watching. What are some things to look out for?
Poll watching is, here's what you need to do. If you're poll watching in a small town, you should know your voter base. Every time there's an election, you get the checklist. You match it up. Who's new? Who left? Who should have left? Who appears not to be where they're supposed to be? Then you find, like on the internet, I pass that thing around here with a pink highlighted. Does anybody have that? Okay, great. You can go on, you can contact CNHT, and we'll give you a list of potential campaign people to look for. You know, names that would show up. Like, I don't think the Kaliks are ever going to let people in their house again, you know? I don't think Kathy Sullivan has let anybody back. I don't think Representative Rosenwald we caught letting somebody from out of state vote from her house. Cindy Rosenwald, we got her for one. I don't think Mike Brown from the Attorney General's office is going to let anybody. I don't think Millie Knudsen from Milford is going to let some guy from Germany vote from her house again. I don't know if Hanover should let Parker Gilbert vote from there again. Parker Gilbert's waiting trial for rape. Parker Gilbert is a citizen of London, England, not Hanover, New Hampshire. He got to vote in 2012 and steal your vote. So we would like to hook up with you. If you guys keep voter databases or the checklist from your town from every single vote and keep track of who votes there, the anomalies will stick out. I know who in my town was from out of state. At the bottom of my hill, 3/4 of a mile from my house, Kay Bliss used to live there. She passed away and left it to relatives. The relatives would come up from Maryland, campaign here, put a Dennis Kucinich bumper sticker, and vote in Deering. When they hired me to work for them, they paid me with a Maryland check. The 2 other people on Deering Reservoir are, one's a lawyer and the other works in the health industry out of Washington, out of DC, Virginia. They live on a lake house you can't get to 8, 9 months out of the year. It's a little goat path. You can't possibly live there, and your kids go to school down there. That's the kind of stuff that's going to start sticking out like a sore thumb. Give it to me. I'll take it. I'm pursuing somebody who's in Maine for somebody from Wilton right now. So, and all I have to do is catch one. Once we found Elena Biden voting from Steinman's, then I found this one. When you look on that sheet over there, let me have that sheet. I probably remember these names: Alicia Kearney, Sarah Ostino. When I caught these people, or CNHD, and we have a whole gaggle of volunteers. When I find a name, I send it off to my background search guy, and within an hour or so, he sends me all the addresses ever associated with that person and phone numbers. So I'll take the phone number and I'll put it in 411, and it comes back who owns that phone number. Because the phone number starts with 603 isn't necessarily in New Hampshire. So once I start connecting phone numbers to Montana, and their addresses to Montana, I know I got a Montana resident, not a New Hampshire resident. And then I go from there. Like Gary, we were talking about that fellow that got caught voting twice. He voted from Newton's Quarry Road, where Millie Knudsen lives. They just live a quarter of a mile apart. He got caught, he's a college student from Keene. Now remember, college students are rounded up like sheep and herded to the polls. And here's, you know how you brand an animal so you know whose it is? In the college towns, they put a sticker on you that says, I voted. So then you know who to round up. So if you see 4 students walking around they haven't been stickered yet, they're probably on, someone's looking for them with a bus or a vehicle with Obama stickers and Biden stickers on it. So that guy that voted in Keene, did you notice in the papers, it didn't say what dorm he voted or what address? Oh, they paid a fine out of Milford, and he voted illegally in Keene, but they never gave the address. Because if they gave the address, I'd track it down. So now I have to go to Keene. The list I have from Keene doesn't have that guy's name on it. Kumpu, K-U-M-P-U. Kumpu was the name. So there's a young fella from New Hampshire going to college in Keene, voted in Keene and voted in Milford. He got caught by the AG's office, and he paid a $1,000 fine, and the mother paid a $200 fine for assisting him because he did it by absentee. But in a college dorm, if I caught that Kumpu kid, I would say, oh, that was in one of the dorms in Keene State College. It's called Owl's Nest. We used to go through Owl's Nest all the time looking for the out-of-staters. I would go to that dorm and see who else was in that room with him, or if he was really there. So that's the kind of stuff. You link these people together. So in Nashua, we have Paulo Kazi, voted there in 2008, 2007, and 2008, 2007. Then he voted back at his home in Somerville, Mass., and now he's registered down in D.C., I believe. We got Janice Rottenberg, that's who was staying with Representative Cindy Rosenwald. And we have Kayla Brown in Salem, Dan Barlewski, that's who voted from Millie Knudsen's house. When you look up Dan Barlewski on the internet, everything comes back German. And he went to college in Canada, and he's worked in Ireland and France. I don't think he's an American citizen. He came here, he's still registered to vote. He voted in 2008, he's still on the list. In 2012, he was smart enough not to vote again. But he was here working for Obama. See how important it is to snag the people that are the backbone of their election, their campaigns in the state. We can break it because we know who they are. I've done nothing else with the other voter fraud in the state but to track this. Question?
I got 2 questions.
Good.
First, do you actually think it's the person voting, or do you think that they're just sending someone there with the person's info?
Apparently, question 1, apparently that's what happened to Caitlin Ann Legaki. She was physically in Missouri, and someone voted from her place, or, here's the next one, someone checked off her name because they knew she wasn't here.
Right.
So if you're at UNH and you go into a dorm and they say, oh, who messed up the dorm here? Who opened the window, cut the branch on the tree? Who did this or that? Oh, that was 2 idiots who were here, they graduated, they're gone. Oh, they're still on the voter checklist. So anybody who's that age can walk in and say, hey, I'm so-and-so. You remember James O'Keefe that came to New Hampshire and his people went in? Well, guess what? One of their guys came to a workshop just like this in Raymond. So that's why they picked New Hampshire. And the AG's office was going to arrest Mr. O'Keefe, wasn't he? Richard Head was going to arrest him if he came back. He was supposed to be a speaker at my cookout. But around that time, they were going to arrest him, subpoena him for being engaged in voter fraud. He was engaged in journalism. Your other question?
Yeah, my other question is, as New Boston Republicans here, I'm thinking, what kind of support are you getting from like the Republican National Committee?
Zero.
And the leadership
No.
in our state?
I wouldn't waste my time.
They're putting their effort into this, right?
Two reasons. I wouldn't waste my time calling Republicans from the other states. I tried Missouri, I tried Virginia.
No, I'm talking New Hampshire, our leadership here.
Here's why.
Why?
I've been told by multiple people, and they have sent me the case, that the Republican Party agreed to not pursue voter fraud because of a lawsuit back in maybe 8 or 10 years ago. And that may not be on the agenda of the Nationals. So, in fact, I had an attorney tell me that. What is today? Today is Thursday. On Monday, I ran into an attorney that reiterated, you know that the Republican Party lost a national case and agreed not to pursue voter fraud from that point on. And I said that I've already been sent that. Karen Testerman sent it to me, I believe, and someone else. So I don't think
our party itself, nationwide, has
is
said,
not pursuing voter fraud.
we're not going to deal with voter fraud at all.
Have you seen them?
No, absolutely not. That's
There you go.
one of the reasons I was just curious.
I just gave up. I called Republican parties and they said, oh, we're very excited to have that information. I talked to the guy in Virginia. The guy in Virginia, where I was trying to track Alicia Tierney or one of these in Virginia, knows a girl that grew up on my road. He knows several people I know here in New Hampshire. I'm a long-time taxpayer activist. I know the taxpayer groups in most of the other states, and I've had dinner with taxpayer groups in other countries. So I've been around a long time, and when I call, like there's a group called Civitas in North Carolina, I call them and I get a hold of their election person, I couldn't get more help. Within hours, I have the voter history on somebody in North Carolina I want. Virginia, I talked to the Republican Party, I don't know if I can get that. You don't have the database for voters in your county, in Arundel County or whatever, Virginia, you don't have that? You can't just email me that? Missouri, Arkansas, wherever I call, that's what I get. I gave up. I only do positive things, brutally. Now, good questions. Who else had a question? Right there.
Do you talk to Democrat groups?
I've had the Democrats in Portsmouth showed up at one of these. They all thought it was going to be fun. They sat in the back, because there is no voter fraud if you're a Democrat, right? Oh, things got ugly. The people that showed up were laughing at them, and one of their crew, a little lady about this tall, came up and tried to take the microphone away from me. So I've always been threatened with the Democrats going to show up and shout you down. They didn't do very well in Portsmouth, and that was on their own turf, you know. So I got to go back to Portsmouth because that's where Senator Martha Fuller Clark is from. Oh. Hey, that was one of our key finds early. And I got to tell you this, somebody we know let that to the press early. I want to do that now. Because these Obama people, they're coming here right now to work for Jeanne Shaheen. You know how I know that? Somebody, Caitlin Ann Ledecky, worked for Jeanne Shaheen. Remember Caitlin Ann Ledecky, voted twice, worked in Missouri, now she's working for Stephanie Cutter? She worked for Jeanne Shaheen in 2008. It's a small world after all. See? This is much more fun than stuff you've been doing. I'm telling you, man. Hunt these people down. Write letters to the editor. You know, I got a little lady in Portsmouth, whenever somebody writes a letter saying, a photo ID is disenfranchising thousands of people. Name one.
Yeah.
You name one, I'll give you 10 people that voted here illegally. So you got to shut these people down. There is no mystery clause in any law that says somebody can vote here. The mystery is, why won't the Attorney General prosecute non-resident voters? Yes?
I lived in Florida for 16 years, and I had to show the card that the county that I registered in.
Yep.
I had to take that and my driver's license. In the park where I lived, the polling was there. Everybody knew me, but I had to show those two things. I didn't mind doing that.
Well, here's the fun part. I know of a guy that I saw was prosecuted for voting in 2 towns in the state of New Hampshire, like the college student from Keene, a couple of years back, and I'm thinking, wow, I never heard of this guy, so I called him up. Apparently, he's a political adjutant in his area and has had some zoning issues. You know how you wind up with a guy that goes, zoning or a speeding ticket? I demand my constitutional rights. Well, he's kind of like that. You know, he's a stick in the mud for the Constitution and property rights. So he voted, he registered in the town where his business is, and he registered in the town where he lives. And both of those were checked off. So the AG came to see him. He's a Republican. The AG came to see him, and his lawyer said, just plead guilty and pay the stupid fine, it won't go away. He pays the fine, pleads guilty. They said, I found out what the repercussions were, so I went in and said, I'm going to appeal. Guess what? They kind of let it all go away. Because if you don't have photo ID, how can you prove double voting? Your supervisor of the checklist, you were doing M through, Z. And, Mrs. P came through and voted. Do you remember checking off her name? No. But if she came through and showed photo ID, there's a good possibility you could prosecute them up.
I do that anyway.
But that's what happens. So that's why they do not want photo ID. But any illegal alien would be happy to have a driver's license with his picture on everything. All right, there was another question over here.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Do you have a nonprofit or a group that?
I'm a 501c4.
Okay,
Coalition of New Hampshire Taxpayers.
okay.
And we are total paupers. There is no reason for the IRS to come after us. If they would like to, go right ahead.
No, that's not why I'm asking, just.
I'm a 501c4.
It would make more sense to send my money to you than the Republican Party.
I don't want to starve the Republican Party,
I don't either.
right? But the other thing you could do is...
They're not doing it.
I have a donation thing with me. All right? Oh, and if anybody from the post office here wants to give me a hard time, this is for my mail, which I just did the other day. These are the last ones we sent out. Coincidence.
But, if they're not gonna do it.
But here's the other thing. You could write letters to the editor. You could do some research. You could get your checklist from your town, which would serve your purposes too. When someone like Gil comes to you and says, boy, I'd really like to have you help me on my campaign, I'll bet you would, because I have a groomed checklist from this town. I know who votes in what elections and how consistently. You're not going to be an effective party unless you have a hold of your checklist and you groom them and go through them like the Democrats are. Like they hire data collectors. These people are data.
But our party doesn't do that.
Your party doesn't do it. Well, they orchestrated it the last time. Romney had a big worker campaign, and I don't even know whether he hired people who wanted him to succeed. I mean, I hardly trust anything anymore. So, if you want to be effective, you can make a donation to us. You can insist that your party look at this stuff, or help people that are doing it, even if they're Democrats, or help us with some time. I got two guys I got to answer here that want to work on as poll watchers. And your best bet is to poll watch in a town where you have a lot of voter fraud. It's a lot more fun to fish in a tank full of fish than it is to wander around in the desert, Any other questions or observations or something that isn't quite clicking yet? Because I would like to find the key to doing this in like 10 minutes, Yes?
This isn't quite clicking. This is more of an observation than a question.
Okay.
This is all infuriating.
Yep.
It's really infuriating. At the end of the night, after an election, within an hour, and somebody is declared a winner, okay?
You ain't gonna like this.
Yeah, I know I'm not. And you know that they're being declared a winner because the machine counted the number of ticks, but you know it isn't right. I've yet to hear of a case where somebody says, but all these votes are illegitimate, therefore this person didn't win. And that's really what it's all about.
I might want to talk to Jim Rubens about that. Former state senator Jim Rubens. I think there was a problem with machines, and it got reversed, and he got in. But here's something I know of from Ohio. In Ohio, they declared the victor of that state, gave all those ballots to Barack Obama, when there was something like 300,000 provisional ballots uncounted. When you win a state by 100,000 or 150,000, and there's 300,000 provisional ballots that haven't been counted, that's kind of a dirty thing, isn't it? Ohio just lost a court case, and you're going to love this. That's infuriating. But here's the little light over the hill. Ohio just lost a case brought by, it was True the Vote, and another nonprofit that provides legal help. It's not the Institute for Justice, it's something like that. Larry Klayman's group, I don't know what that is. I think it's Larry Klayman's group. They just
Watch.
Judicial Watch. Judicial Watch, and look it up on the internet, make sure I'm telling you the truth. Judicial Watch and True the Vote sued the state of Ohio over inflated voter checklists, just what we had. And there's a percentage that it got to, like 10%. There were 10% more voters than there were people in the town, in parts of Ohio. So Ohio says, we'll clean up our voter rolls before the next election, and they have until before 2014's election to do that. I'm looking, and I want the camera to record this, so when the Democrats at home watch this and see, I'm going to do everything I can to sue the state of New Hampshire with whatever evidence I can find to show that how fraudulent our statewide voter checklist is. And I'm going to use a town like Durham. It's a big secret, don't tell anybody. I'm going to use a town like Durham where 3,000 students register same day and half of them are gone next year or 2 years later. Because eventually it has to catch up with you. Either those supervisors of the checklist spend all day cleaning those rolls, or it's going to get to the point where there's more voters than there are people in the town. And that'll give me the opportunity to go to Larry Clayman and True the Vote. I've had lunch with True the Vote down in Massachusetts. I'm a very popular speaker at Citizens for Limited Taxation. Those people out in Massachusetts love this stuff because they know their friends and relatives are voting here. So the other thing is I need tips from you guys. If you hear of anything, if you see anything, if anything even suspicious happens, you may not think it's special, but just sometimes a name or a residence clicks and I have two things or it's the third thing. Okay? And a selectman should be paying attention to this too. And if you get elected, Gil, walk towards the light like I told you, okay? Okay, it was
What about license plate numbers? Can you do anything with those?
I don't know if I should even say that, but it doesn't hurt to have a photocopy of one.
I mean, when they bring the bus in from Massachusetts, you
From
know,
Massachusetts, hey, you
and
never
20
know.
people get off it.
You know, here's something you want to look at. I have been trying for years to get this nice little piece of information. I shouldn't say this either. Up in the town of Kittery, Maine, every so often the police in Kittery go and pull all the New Hampshire plates off the Maine cars. And it's in the paper. Oh, we caught 30 people. We caught 20 people. They paid $300. I've called Kittery on several occasions. I'll have to go up there because I know the taxpayers group, some of them in Maine. I have to go approach them and get that stuff. Because I'll bet you the lowlife that registers his car in New Hampshire comes down here and votes. Because I believe James O'Keefe's crowd caught several Maine voters voting here. And a guy named Dave Scott from Dover paid about $1,000 and remailed everybody, and he got cross-border voters. That letter he sent to the Attorney General's office they did nothing with hangs in our office. Dave Scott should have an S tattooed on his chest. He's done that there, and bless his soul, Bob Kingsbury, a former state representative from Laconia, remailed everybody right after the 2012 election, and he got back 211 envelopes of those people don't live here, and he gave them to me. And it's very enlightening what we will accept as an address in the state of New Hampshire. So if you have so-and-so voted from 39 Oak Street, and you send them a letter, it comes back, we don't know of anybody. And you find out there's 225 units at 39 Oak Street, why did you let that person vote? They don't live at 39 Oak, they live in unit 35. That's how you track people. I got to know the unit number, it's a useless deal. I mean, I have a printout of 1200 Elm Street. When we found that 1200 Elm Street, Manchester, was a voter nest, a voter fraud nest run by the Democrats every year, when we found that out, I had to print out, it was 28 pages that I had to go through, and now we found a way to isolate that. And it'd be a lot easier with tips from guys like you or people that live in that building, which I'm eventually going to meet and talk to, because there's got to be people in that building that do not like this. They can keep an eye out for me in 2014. Something else is Democrat. The other thing is I like it when you videotape this and put it on YouTube, because I know they watch it. All right? So they don't come here and complain about me calling them all kinds of names, but I know they watch that stuff. They were so arrogant they did this in 2012 and gave me the club to beat them with, so I figure it's fair. Any other questions or observations? Is something I can do to make this easier? It is very, very complicated. I have people who help me that only do one or two things because it's hard to keep track of all of it, you know?
This is just a softball question.
Great.
When's the CHD picnic?
Our cookout is, our picnic at the American Legion is July 5th, unless something goes wrong, and we have Dr. Betsy McCoy. that read Obamacare when it first came out. She's the person you see on Fox News and all the talk shows that carries the 1,500 pages with her. Blonde hair, very, very good on that. So far she's supposed to be there. And one year we had PJ O'Rourke show up. So it's a small time, a couple of hundred people. And this year we're going to be working with Concerned Veterans for America. Because when I do these voter fraud workshops, as long as I've been doing it, I usually have somebody stand up and say, I fought for my country and they let people steal my vote. That's consistent. I hear that more than anything else. So we're going to be working with Concerned Veterans for America because I imagine some concerned veterans wouldn't mind going through a voter checklist or doing a little research for me. So does everybody think I've been fair to these low-life ballot box stuffing creeps from out of state? I mean, I haven't done anything to them they don't deserve, right? Everybody's gone.
I just have one question. I don't know if you can answer this question, but why is the penalty for voter fraud a stupid little fine? They have to throw them in jail for 6 months, and then they won't be so apt to run to do it again.
Yeah,
$300 fine is nothing.
Or think about, you know, you voted illegally from your dorm in Keene. You're no longer a student in Keene. You know, do something like that and put it in the papers. I got one for you. I've gone, you're going to like this. I have gone to testify at the Election Law Committee 4 or 5 times to try and convince the legislature to have photo ID or do something about this. One time I went, and you know, I follow the Keene students pretty close in the dorms. A young lady was on the Election Law Committee named Stephanie C. Sinclair. I'm talking to the Election Law Committee, they're all on a circle, and she says, can I ask Mr. Naille a question, Mr. Moderator? And the moderator says, yes. She said, would it surprise you, Mr. Naille, to know that my car has Massachusetts plates? And I said, it wouldn't surprise me at all. As long as your driver's license says New Hampshire. This is a sitting state representative on the Election Law Committee. Her face goes white. She doesn't show me a driver's license, but she resigned from the House of Representatives shortly after that. You can ask Bill O'Brien, he was there, and might be on the election law at that time. Bill O'Brien said it's one of the happiest days in the legislature. Then I go back. Right? Oh, I do that? I had 4 different addresses for that state rep in Keene. She moved here, moved there, moved here. I knew she was a student or just graduated. We had a student in Hanover won a county treasurer's position. You know, ran on a lark, became county treasurer. And then they had to take her out of that position, put a responsible person in later on. Remember that? And I go to the Election Law Committee. The last time I went to the Election Law Committee, I'm handing this stuff out, saying to supposedly adults, does everybody here see what I see? Here's a confession saying I voted here illegally, take my name off the list. Does everybody see what I'm saying? And one state representative was beside himself. He wanted to ask me a question. Representative Chuck Weed from Keene, college professor at the time. He says, can I ask Mr. Naille a question? And I say, excuse me, Mr. Moderator, Ms. Moderator. I respectfully refuse to answer any questions of a representative who engages in voter fraud. So he yells out that I'm a liar. They bang the meeting closed for a 15-minute recess. I'm not lying. Mr. Weed, state representative on election law, made his own same-day voter affidavits for the students to use without the perjury clause because he doesn't like it. How come he isn't in handcuffs? How come he didn't go to jail? How come he didn't pay a fine? They sent Bud Fitch out from the Attorney General's office to tell him not to do it again. It was all of us. I had a newspaper clipping. I had it with me, you know, so they banged the gavel. They gavelled the Election Law Committee hearing closed because I had accused this lowlife of voter fraud when he was obviously engaged in it. He said it was a protest. If I protested by doing some stuff like that, where would I wind up? Yeah. My wife would be looking for bail money under the kitchen sink. So,
is that where you keep it? Just kidding.
There's no money there. So, actually, she won't bail me out. We've already discussed that. Now you've created this mess yourself. So I don't go to the Election Law Committee anymore. That's a waste of my time. This is more fun and more productive, as you can see. What would I do? I get a couple. It would be nice if they did say, all right, here we go. We arrested a state representative for making fraudulent, homemade voter affidavits and talking 6 students into attempting to use them. So this is much better. I'm going to work over Stephanie Season, the people on these lists for years. I'm going to follow their careers. Boom, 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 as they go along. And I have a Google search out for them. We have a former city manager from Dover that's a crook. And he left here and he went to Kingston, Arizona, and we tracked him there and got him run out of there. He's unemployed. Because I have a Google search on Paul C. Beecher from New Hampshire, former city manager. When that comes up, if I find him trying to get a job in another town, I call that town, tell him this is, I've sent him everything I have. Guy's a thief and a liar, don't hire him. So that worked very well with city